I think really the most important thing about working in China and working with Chinese is understanding the Chinese mentality. So I don't know if you've had sort of experiences so far working and not really understanding what somebody's saying, even though they're speaking English and they're telling you, in a language you understand, but you can't really understand why they can't understand what you're saying. And it's really important to understand where that difference in understanding comes from the very, very root of it. And this is something that I saw in a presentation about 6 years ago that really made sense to me, and after I sort of internalized it and understood it, it made a big difference in how I approach situations with Chinese. And that is that the meaning of time. So whereas we're always thinking about what date this has to be handed in at, or what time it needs to be there, or the next deadline in the mission, that concept is just not really there in the general Chinese thinking of things. It is more about relationships, and that time is moving around, and so that if this doesn't happen at a certain time, it's not really such a big deal, because the time is not as definitive as we think. This is some artwork that was done by an artist named Yang Liu, and it basically also gives a good representation of like the Western idea versus the Chinese idea. So we make decisions independently, and for pretty much 3,000 years, they've been trained to make decisions collectively. So you need to consider that when you're having a conversation or some negotiation. We are very conflict-driven, so we want to attack the issue, identify it, work through it, and generally speaking, Chinese and Asia in general is very risk-averse. So you will see this in your business, and you will see this in the way you do things about going around the issue to find a solution, not going through the issue to find a solution. You need to keep this in mind. And also, the Chinese are very network-driven. So whereas for us, if we have a business problem, we identify, okay, I need to talk to this person, I need to get this paper, I need to get this signed, and I got the job done. It's not that way in thinking in the Chinese mind. It's more about the collective idea and talking to lots of different people and creating a network. So, tip number 3 is not to hide behind emails and not to hide behind the computer. And this took me a little while to figure out, and it took some of my employees some time to figure out. But once you figure it out, and you pick up that phone and you start to talk to people in China, as opposed to sending them emails, you're going to get so much farther, so much faster. If you're sending emails to Chinese suppliers or Chinese partners in general, you are wasting your time pretty much. You should get up and go talk to them, or go out to dinner, or do whatever you have to do to meet them in a social situation and really form a relationship with them. This is another slide that's really important for you guys to understand what your value is here in China. And I'll take you through a couple of examples as well that I brought along from the industries that I work in. So these are the things that really don't exist in the China workplace so much that you can bring. And it's really important for you guys to know how to call attention to this for yourself. And you're going to get a lot more opportunities if you harness this within the Chinese organization. So that is number 1, the ability to create the black and white from all the gray. Generally speaking, the Chinese education doesn't give them a lot of direction in how to create procedures very firmly, create very specific things. There's a big culture here, and a lot of people say the word all the time in our industry, which is 差不多, which means, it actually translated means short but not by much, which means that it's just sort of like maybe, it's sort of okay. And that's really not in our business culture in the States whatsoever. Our business culture is very much yes or no, or it fits or it doesn't. But here there's a big culture of, well, it sort of fits. And that's something that you can really bring to the game, which is definition of what is and what isn't. That's what my company does a lot of. What we need to do, and what we bring to our clients, is that we help these clients to really define the standards. Because somebody like somebody has a brand in the States for like the past 75 years. They've just been doing business on a handshake. And manufacturing in the States is easy because generally speaking, people produce a good product and they know what the standard is. But in China, it's not that way. It needs to be black and white in terms of what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. If it's not black and white for them, it's just going to be the chabudo response in the end. So you need to make it black and white. So this is like the type of thing that we create for our clients. We call it a QC checklist. And it might seem so sort of repetitive and not necessary in a lot of ways, but in China, this is the type of specification that you need to develop, whether it be for procedures in the office, or procedures for your sales team, or just procedures for when people should come in and punch the time cards, whatever it might be. Everything really needs to be black and white. And that's sort of the value that a lot of Westerners can bring, because we have that mentality. So just to give you an example of what this is a checklist that we give the inspector. So we go through every aspect of the product. Each individual checkpoint, exactly where the product labeling should be, how it should be packaged. And we get into the special inspections, so like exactly the size, every dimension, what the tolerance is for that dimension, what is the weight, what is the tolerance for that weight, what is the volume of the bottle, what is the tolerance for that, the item height, the thickness of the wall. These are all things that, generally speaking, under a lot of the Chinese factory mentality, will degrade over time. Because if that wall thickness is supposed to be 2.5 millimeters, after a few runs of production, it's going to get thinner for one reason or another, and eventually that quality of that bottle is going to degrade. So really important to keep that in mind in terms of bringing the black and white to the gray, making things clear for everybody.